episode of Meet the Village. Today we have something a little different for you. Our residents have so many talents and skills. If a special resident comes to my attention, he or she need not be a brand new resident to appear on this program. Today's guest is one of those special residents. A special individual with special needs that makes a very special person to interview. I will refrain from saying too much right now. Donna's story will unwind as we move along. I am referring to Donna Posant, a resident who joined the Alegria family in June of 2023. Donna lives in Hampton Square and hides in apartment 315. You will immediately notice that Donna is different. That said, a big welcome to Donna. Thank you for agreeing to appear on Meet the Village. It is a pleasure to have you join us. Shall we get started?
Sure, thank you.
Okay. Donna, our residents come from all over. Now, where did you start this voyage called life?
I was born in Wheeling, West Virginia, and I lived on a dairy farm way back in the holler, and I lived there till I was in my 20s.
Oh, so that means you must have done your grade school and high school.
Yeah, at West Liberty Grade School and Triadelphia High School.
Okay.
In Wheeling.
All righty. Donna, will you please what began to happen when you were about 8 years old?
Yes. In the summer between second and third grade, I started noticing that I couldn't see things, and I especially noticed when I went back to school in the third grade that I couldn't see the writing on the blackboard. So for some reason, that was the age that I started losing my eyesight.
Do you happen to know what that disease was that was taking your
Well,
sight?
now I know it's retinitis pigmentosa, a form of that, which there's about 90 different forms, of course, but at that time, nobody could figure it out, and it was like, appeared to the doctors like a form of macular degeneration, in that my central vision was gone, and typical retinitis pigmentosa is like tunnel vision, where the last thing you have is your central vision. So doctors were baffled. So I went to Temple University in my 20s, and they diagnosed retinitis pigmentosa.
Okay. Okay, is it a genetic disease?
Yes, it is. Neither one of my parents have it, but I have two sisters that also have RP, I'll just say it like that. And one is 6 years older, and she's now totally blind as well. And then I had one that was 6 years younger who has since passed away from a brain tumor, but we were both pretty similar on our journey of blindness. When we went to first grade, we could read and write and see everything like everyone else, and then after second grade, our vision started to deteriorate, and fortunately, I think, I learned what all the letters looked like, and I learned my colors and all that while I could still see, and I count that as an advantage in my journey.
Okay, terrific. How did your parents react to this unforeseen tragedy? Start with your mom.
Well, my mom, God bless her, I feel very sorry for her because she had a lot of guilt in that, what did she do to cause this? And of course she did nothing to cause it but carry a recessive gene, which she had no control over, and she really didn't know how to help us except to talk to the teachers about letting us sit in the front of the room to see the blackboard better. And they really didn't know how to help. My dad, on the other hand, he pretty much denied that it was even true. And he thought if we tried hard enough, we could see. And we were supposed to do everything just like anybody else, especially I'm saying that on the farm, that we had to just find another way to get our chores done.
Okay, and what did those chores include?
Well, I think it's a little more than chores, maybe child labor. We were part of the farm, so we milked the cows, and every night I helped my dad with that. And we, of course, in the summer put in hay, and those were the West Virginia hills. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but people here would probably call them mountains, but they are hills. And he would put the tractor in front of the hay wagon, sit me on the seat of the tractor and say, hold the steering wheel, and we'd go. And sometimes I was, in the haymow, stacking the bales and so forth. It was a lot of work in the summer. I'd rather go to school.
Okay, this doesn't sound like it was chores at all, more like a full-time job.
Yeah.
Did this go on all the time? I mean, did you get any break of any sort?
Well, my parents never made me do any barn work before I went to school in the morning, so that was a good thing. We did it all when we came home. And in the summer, I got to go to Bible school for a week and stay at my grandma's, and I also went to 4-H camp.
Oh, tell us
for a
about
week.
4-H.
Yes, and that evolved into much more in that I took a dairy project. This is the way West Virginia worked with 4-H. I know it's different everywhere, but that was my project. So I would have a calf and I would raise it up and figure out the feed and the weight and the measurements, and then I would show it at the local fairs and at the state dairy show.
And did you have to sell it? Is that part of the project?
Most of them, yeah. In fact, we had a 2-year project where we'd raise it, and then they were all in an auction when they were 2 years old, and we sold them that way.
Okay, well, your blindness was increasing a little bit at a time.
Yes.
And now, how did you react to this? And we had a conversation about your dad and his firmness kind of set your mind in the correct direction.
Well, I sure didn't appreciate it then. And I didn't think he was always right, because no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't see things. But his pushing kind of gave me my attitude for life, because even now, if I want to do something, I just figure out another way to do it without being able to see. So even though it seemed rough at the time, it has helped me throughout my life.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good to hear. Okay, let's talk about school. School back in West Virginia. Did you have problems going to school?
Yes, because this was back before IDEA, which is Individual Disabilities Education Act, and back before the Rehab Act. And there were no provisions for educating children with blindness, and so nobody had to. Fortunately, in high school, I had counselors that read me my tests, and when I went to college, there was still no adaptation, and I never learned Braille as a child, which I should have, but back then they didn't know, and I sure didn't know how to tell them what I needed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I suspect it was very hard, particularly not being able to read. How did you get information? How did you absorb it?
Well, for a while I could read large print books, which
Okay.
they ordered for me, but eventually by high school I couldn't read the print, and I just depended on people to read to me. And like I say, God bless my mother. We were up a lot of nights at midnight. She would read to me and try to help me. After we got all our work done, that was the only time left to study, and my mother was an angel in that regard.
That's good to hear. Tell us about West Liberty College in West Liberty, Virginia.
West Virginia.
West Virginia.
Okay.
Oh, I apologize. I apologize. Mea
Yeah.
culpa. I've lived
Don't
in
go
West
back
Virginia.
before the Civil War.
Yeah.
This is here.
So I've
anyhow-
lived in West Virginia. I should know better.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're kind of sensitive about that.
Yeah.
But anyway, when I graduated from high school, I wanted to pursue a career in dairy science, because that's what I learned about in 4-H, and that would entail studying milk production and breeding cattle and so forth. So when I went to West Liberty State College, I intended to study biology for 2 years and then go to the West Virginia University. However, about 2 weeks into it, the counselor started figuring out, how are you going to do chemistry? Can't see the periodic table. How are you going to do biology when you can't look at the microscope? And he pretty rapidly talked me out of a biology degree and into a social work degree, which I don't regret, but I never got over wanting to learn about science.
Well, I don't blame you, but that will come up again a little later, so just everybody stand by. Okay, now how did you get from West Virginia to Dearborn, Michigan?
Wow. Well, let's see. After college, my roommate and I moved to Philadelphia, and we worked there for a couple years at Upsall School for the Blind. And then I moved to Maryland and worked in the vending program, which is a provision of state and federal buildings to employ blind people in their food service. And then I moved to West Virginia and worked in the United States Department of Energy cafeteria in Morgantown. It was at that time I was highly involved in the National Federation of the Blind, and there was a national business division, and my soon-to-be husband Larry was the president and I was his vice president, and he lived in Michigan. So once we got married, I moved to Michigan because he had a better job than me.
Okay, how many of you moved to Michigan? Was it just the two of you?
Well, I had my daughter Katie at that time, but after I moved to Michigan, we quickly populated the earth with 4 more children, and so we have 5 children.
And they are?
Katie, who is 42 now. Peter is 37. Paul's 35. Ruthie is 32. And Betsy is 28.
Are they all sighted?
They are all sighted,
Okay,
yes.
so that
and they all have children, which is the best part.
Okay. All right. Now, let's take a little sidebar here. Please tell us about birding by ear. I want to know, what is it, and how did you come to discover this innate ability to recognize a bird by sound?
Well, you know how I mentioned I never got over that wanting to learn about science, so I had volunteered at a camp for blind children, Camp Tusmahida in western Michigan, and there was the great out of doors, and we concentrated on crafts and swimming and singing, but I wanted to know what that thing was tapping on the tree and making noise. So I went back to the University of Michigan Dearborn in 2008, pursuing an environmental studies degree. And the first summer I did an internship at that camp, and I was looking for something that I could teach blind children. And I came up with these toy plush birds that make sound. So I got some of those, and we learned to identify those birds by sound and figure out different ways that we could remember the sounds. And when I went back to school in the fall, I started a monthly program, Birding by Ear, and the rest is kind of history.
Okay, well, we'll get back to it in a little while, too. I happen to know that you had one more education stop before you. Please tell us about that.
Yeah, in my later years, I went to the University of Michigan Dearborn, and I went to the career office, and I said, I have no idea what kind of degree this would be, but I want to learn about nature so that I can share it with other people that are blind. And they said, we know exactly who you need to see, Dr. Oren Gelderloos, who's the head and founder of the Environmental Interpretive Center, which of course is still there today. And I called Dr. Gelderloos, and through conversation he said, I don't know anything about being blind, but I do know about nature. So I think together we can get it done. And we did. We worked together. I took all of his classes, and he taught field biology, which I took in 2012. And then for 6 more years after that, I joined him as he taught field biology because he was losing his hearing. So I could hear the birds, and then I'd show him where they were, and then he'd teach the students about them. So I count myself very fortunate to have repeated education of field biology. And then when I graduated in 2015, they asked me if I wanted to come on the staff, which of course I did, at the Environmental Interpretive Center as a naturalist, and teach birding by ear, which became Birding by Ear and Beyond, because we also learn about frogs and trees and butterflies and other things in nature. And we're still doing that as a monthly program.
Okay. Now, you graduated from the university. What was your major and minor?
Oh, my major was environmental studies with a naturalist focus. And just to show I could do it, I got a minor in biology.
Okay. Okay. Now, when did you start putting all this into practice? I've got some dates here like 2009 and 2014. Let's start with 2009.
Well, that's the summer I worked at the camp, and I discovered birding by ear by playing with those little toy plush birds that make sounds.
Okay.
And then I pretty much went back to that camp every year for at least 5 years and taught some kind of nature. In fact, I'm going there next week.
Well, the one is the camp for
Camp Tusmahita, yeah.
for blind teens.
That was the science camp that we
Okay.
started at the Environmental Interpretive Center with the
Okay.
National Federation of the Blind. We started that in 2014, and it was 10 days of working with blind teenagers on different subjects like the watershed and sound and
Okay. Now, what's this I hear about you and butterflies at the university?
well, during that time, in fact, it might even been in 2014, we built a butterfly garden, and there was someone that got a grant to build a butterfly garden, and she gave us the end of it, and we built 2 enclosed beds. And our deal was that everything in the garden that we started had to be edible and smellable. So even when I go up there now, which it's still there and I still use it in my programs, and usually every spring people help me plant a couple more things in there. But anything in there they can taste and put in their mouth and it won't hurt them.
Okay, terrific. Okay, the time frame is rolling right along. We're getting a little closer to 2020. I suspect that COVID put a lid on most of your endeavors.
Yeah, everything at the university shut down. The students could still learn online, but of course I couldn't teach birding by ear or nature. The environmental center totally closed for 2 years, so my program was down for a few years, and it's back up and running and pretty productive and successful at the moment.
Okay, that is getting up to our more current time here. We're going to be segueing back and forth a little bit here. Let's talk about now. What brought you to Alegria Village?
My kids brought me here. I did not want to come, I'll just tell you that, but I lived in 2019, I bought a house way out in the country, down by Lake Erie, and the birding was glorious. So many new birds, and they were right there. I didn't have to go to the university to hear them in the woods, but then COVID hit.
Right.
And it became very lonely and isolating, and all the transportation stopped, the city bus, and you couldn't get a Lyft or an Uber anymore, and people didn't exactly come to visit because of COVID, and I became very lonely and did not deal well with the isolation. So eventually, which was 2022, my children said, I think you need to sell this house and go back to the city. So through all that process, my youngest daughter, Betsy, found Alegria Village, and I came here kicking and screaming and moved in on June 19th because my sons were off work that day, and we all moved in, but I'm the only one that lives here. And I've loved it ever since because there's people around, and I discovered that even though I love birds and their sounds, I love people even more.
Okay, you just I have to reword my next question because I was going to say there must be an upside to this move, and you already basically discussed that because you don't appear to be stressed or unhappy.
No, I'm not.
I more than suspect you've been very busy again. But Henry Ford Village, tell us, the Henry Ford Village, Alegria Village, please tell us about your apartment.
Oh, my apartment's on the 3rd floor, and I have a window to the out of doors because I have a balcony, which the doors open all the time in the summer, and the birds wake me up in the morning, and I go out on the balcony and water my plants and drink my coffee and listen to the birds, and it's a very happy time.
Yes. Have you rekindled any of your old projects?
Well, of course, the university opened back up, and I only live 3 miles from the University of Dearborn, so I'm over there quite a bit. Of course, every month for the birding program, but otherwise I go over and hike in the woods to see what birds are out and about, and I go over and work on the butterfly garden. So it's very nice to live so close to the university.
Terrific. Now, fellow villagers may not be aware of your contribution to the new rain garden, sitting outside along the exterior chapel door. Okay, now, how did this all come to be?
Well, let's see. In the first winter when I lived here, I was reading a newsletter from Friends of the Rouge, which is an organization, just like it sounds, to clean up and restore the Rouge River to a healthy habitat. And they were offering grants to build rain gardens in big areas, not your backyard, but like a big area like this village or a school. And I just thought, well, I would try.
What was the space requirement?
It was requiring 1,000 square feet.
Now, that space outside the chapel door isn't a 1,000
No, it
square feet.
isn't, but believe it or not, it's about 750 feet. And
Okay.
at one point, we were going to put one in another place, so we'd have our 1,000 feet, but we ran out of time for all that. And it's quite nice the way it is with the size
Who
and the way
approved
it's
the
located.
change in square footage?
Oh, Friends of the Rouge. But I had to work with the administration here, which of course Mike Sala was very instrumental and encouraged us to build the rain garden, which could be enjoyed by the residents.
Okay. Now, first, what is a rain garden and how does it differ from other types of gardens?
Well, a rain garden is, with the word rain, it deals with water and waterfall, and it is slightly lower in the middle. And when there's a rainfall event, the rain, which our rain garden, the rain spout pours water directly into it. And the plants that are in there are native to Michigan, and they also all have deep roots. Some of those plants in there could get roots 10 feet down.
Oh, my.
Not all of them.
What
but
are the
some
names
of them.
of some of them?
Oh, there's cardinal flowers, and there's blue stem iris, and there's Canadian, that pretty flower out there.
We all get tongue-tied,
Yeah.
so don't apologize.
Anemone,
Yeah.
that's it.
Oh,
see,
anemones,
see why I
yes.
got tongue-tied? That's a funny one. And they slow down the absorption of rain water into the earth, which is going to eventually end up in the Rouge River. Believe it or not, the rain off this roof will eventually end up in the Rouge River. And the filtering process with the roots, number one, it slows it down, and number two, it filters out chemicals and pesticides and helps hold that in the local earth so it doesn't go into the Rouge River.
Okay. It's okay, it travels. It definitely travels. But that was a huge project. How many resident volunteers got down and dirty digging and planting?
Well,
Overall.
we had advertised, so last August 1st, about 30 people showed up, and they all had an opportunity to start planting. Some just wanted to put one flower in so they could say they were a part of it, and indeed that's just fine, because all the residents need to be a part of it, whether they just sit on the bench and enjoy it. It's there for everyone. And then,
Must have had some stalwarts, though. How
yeah,
many?
I have to say I was one of them, and Joanne Dallasanta and Marion Harris and the people from Friends of the Rouge. We were still there by 3 o'clock planting, and we were pretty much done by then, and we had to cover the whole area with mulch.
Okay. Now, spring has come, and by the time this is televised, will actually be gone. Did the plantings survive the winter and the spring floods around here?
Oh, it sure did. One problem we had was the sprinkler system was, I don't know if it cracked or broke, but last summer after the planting, there was too much water in it. It was a rain garden, but the plants were just new and their roots weren't established yet, and so some of them did get washed away and didn't survive. But we're going to plant some new ones in there this Thursday, June 19th at 10 a.m.
Okay. All right. Okay, that's great on the rain garden. Now, in our conversation, you had spoke about the National Federation of the Blind. Now, are you still active with them?
Oh, yeah. I joined the National Federation of the Blind in 1978, which is probably like 47 years ago. I might be off by a year, but that enabled me to share life with other people who are blind. And in fact, after I went to my first national convention, I came home and put a cane in my hand and used it, whether I knew how to or not, and to cross streets and walk around where I worked. And I still have it in my hand. I've had some training with it, and I'm a little more accurate at it, but not perfect. And through the years, the National Federation of the Blind, I was there in Pennsylvania, Maryland, and West Virginia, and now in Michigan. I'm on the state board of the National Federation of the Blind in Michigan, and I'm also the president of the New Wayne County chapter. And we really strive to help blind people understand that they can live the lives they want. They just need to find a different way to do some things, like reading. We don't read print. You can read Braille or you can read audio books. The only thing I can't do is drive a car, but I can get places anyway, so that doesn't count.
Okay, I want to tell our audience out there that the monthly Wayne County chapter meeting was here at Allegria Village on Saturday the 7th. How did that go?
It went great. We had our normal chapter meeting, but we also had a section where we shared particular information about how to live life as a senior blind person and how to adjust when a person is losing their eyesight. And I thought it went quite well, but if there's anybody that didn't get to come and they want to know more information about blindness or low vision or the National Federation of the Blind, I hope they get in contact with me.
Yeah, that would be great. You go ahead and do that if you have that problem. But I want to tell our audience that I did attend that meeting, the local chapter. I felt with doing this interview and knowing Donna that I just could spend that afternoon eating their snacks and learning something. And yes, indeed, the speakers, Donna can probably supply the name of the lady who lost her vision in her 70s. She gave up and stood up and spoke and was one of the most positive individuals I have ever heard. She had us laughing consistently. So that's something that I was so pleased to see with a group of blind people, that they were indeed enjoying life. And then the other thing that I thought was really worth knowing about was the prescription reader. This is the era of devices. Someone brought in, again, you know who the lady who brought it in.
Sarah.
Sarah brought in this little box, and another person offered a prescription, a little bottle. You can put your bottle in this little device, and it not only tells you what the prescription is for, it tells you how much to take, it tells you about other things you should or should not do, to conflicts. Did I miss anything on that? Because you'd know more about that.
No, it just reads the whole label, in other words.
Yeah, so that was absolutely terrific. And that was just, as I say, just on the 7th here. So we have covered a lot of material here. But
May I say something?
I was going to just say before we sign off, do you have any last
Well, I
comments
wanted to say
you'd like
about that, I learned something that day about the prescription reader. And every time I asked at CVS for that, they said, we don't do that. Well, there was a lady there that works in the pharmacy at another CVS, and she said, they do that. But what they do now is they use the app on your phone. You hold your bottle up, and it reads the label. So yesterday, I marched myself into CVS down the street, and of course the lady said, no, I've been here 40 years, and we don't do that. And I'm like, you do that. So she got the pharmacist, and indeed, by the time I picked up my prescription, he verified that they would get the labels and put them on my bottles, and the next time I came in, they would help me download the app and show me how to use it. So I learned something from that meeting that's going to be very helpful to me in my life.
And we learned to persevere.
Yes.
Don't accept no as the first answer. I mean, the first answer as the ultimate answer. Okay, all that put aside, I'll go back to the question again. Before we sign off, do you have anything else you'd like to say in general? Maybe about Alegria, anything at all?
Well, I love living in Alegria. There's lots of opportunities here. The first week, I marched myself over to the St. Clair Clubhouse, and I said, I want to play euchre. And of course, they're like, how can you play euchre? You can't see the card. So I pulled out my deck of cards with Braille on them, and I'm like, I can play. So I've been playing euchre ever since, and indeed, I love it. So that shows that there are different ways to get things done. And I know as you're losing your eyesight in your older age, you don't know Braille. And you probably think it's too cumbersome to learn in your old age. And maybe for some people it is, because we lose some of the sensitivity in our fingers sometimes with neuropathy. But there are ways to get things done. And in the National Federation of the Blind, I've learned a lot. I spent years in the Blind Parents of Children division, and it helped me raise my kids and get good ideas. And now I'm in the science division, and I learn about new technology and things and ways to teach blind children. So that is a good thing. But if you need any help or you want to know more about any of that, I'm happy, and I'm happy to just walk around, you know, here and help you learn your way. I think I'm finally learning my way around outside. So I'm pretty glad about that. But if you'd like any help or any encouragement, I just want you to know that you can lead a productive and a wonderful life with blindness.
Okay. My girl. You do really keep busy. I'm getting tired just sitting here listening to you. But in all seriousness, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. We really appreciate it. You had a most unusual story to tell, not one we often hear. For a visually handicapped person, you have lived a very full life. Your acceptance of reality and your can-do attitude is an inspiration to all of us. So once again, I repeat myself, thank you so much for taking the time to share your life story with us. And we are now looking forward to the one shared with us. Donna, you are a showstopper.
Thank you.
For Community Television, I'm Michaeline Larson.